Hey, everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petraglia, back with another episode of the JungleRoar podcast. This is the look-ahead episode to the beginning of OTAs. That would be organized team activities, and back with me trying to find his way through the cloud and craziness of off-season activities and trying to understand the difference between the three phases, which we will get into, is my good friend James Rapien. James Rapien does a fabulous job covering the Bengals. His has the only daily podcast covering the Bengals, Locked On Bengals. He also covers the Bengals for allbengals.com. Follow him on Twitter at James Rapien, all one word. How are you, bud?
I'm well, Mike. I appreciate you having me. How are you?
I'm very good. I am very impressed with your backdrop as always. And before we started recording, I actually saw you wear the Spider-Man mask that is behind you. And in honor of the 2020, yeah, go ahead. You can bring it out. In honor of the 2022 NBA Finals, which are off to a rousing Boston start. You have an addition to your backdrop, and that would be Golden, the book on Steph Curry, correct?
Yeah, that Marcus Thompson wrote. And look, I'm a big Steph Curry fan. I'm actually wearing a Steph Curry shirt right here.
Oh, that's
Under
cool.
Armour.
Yep.
I hope, and I know you work there, and I'm sure there's plenty of Boston and New England fans that still follow your work. I hope the Warriors, and they're down 1-0 as we record this, kick the hell out of the Celtics. And I hate that they just crumbled and fumbled and bumbled their way to a game one loss. And it sickens me. It bothers me. And the NBA is one of those things that I can, be a fan of and really take in this time of year because it's our slower time.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I stayed up late on Thursday night in the Celtics, Al Horford, who's older than you, beat my Warriors really, really bothers me. And I'm not really a Warriors fan necessarily, but I am a huge, huge Steph Curry fan. And so, yeah, I'm pretty bummed right now, but hopefully the Warriors can rebound.
Marcus Smart is the glue that holds the Celtics together. That's what I will tell you. And when he's on, Celtics are a tough team to beat. So on to the football aspect of this podcast as you try to get over your game one NBA Finals.
It's tough. I'll try.
I want to look at the Bengals and where they are between phases of their off-season workout regimen. And we have great, intelligent fans that follow us on the JungleRoar podcast, certainly great Bengal fans and very informed Bengal fans that follow you on Locked On. But not all of these fans, even as passionate as they are, may not understand the differences between phase one, phase two, and phase three of the offseason, the NFL offseason workout program. Phase one consists of the first 2 weeks of the program with activities limited just to meetings, strength and conditioning, and rehab. Phase two consists of the next 3 weeks of the program, on-field workouts, which you and me have both seen for the last month or so, essentially since May 2nd, the whole month of May. On-field workouts can include individual or group instruction, drills, as well as drills and plays with offensive players going up against offensive players, defensive players going up against defensive players, but not offense against defense, which leads me into phase three, OTAs, which for your Cincinnati Bengals starts on Monday with 2 days, June. Let me make sure I have this right. Yes, June 6th and 7th. They don't practice on Wednesday, and then they have June 9th as a scheduled OTA. So in phase three, teams may conduct a total of 10 days of organized team practice activities. No live contact, of course, is permitted. So the Bengals will not be in pads, not until the end of not until the beginning of training camp, probably 1 week in. But the teams can do 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills. So this is a big time for you and me to watch the Bengals as they get ready for phase three.
It is, and it's really a big indicator, going to be a big indicator of where these rookies are at, right? The Bengals drafted 3 defensive backs. It starts with Dax Hill, and Jesse Bates isn't going to show up. Breaking news. Yeah. He's not going to be there for OTAs. And so if he's not there, well, guess who's rolling with the ones, baby? Dax Hill, my guy, Dax Hill, your guy, Dax Hill, yes. Someone that we were pretty big on pre-draft, and the Bengals were able to land him. And I think he was a steal. Well, this is a chance for him to get valuable reps against the Bengals ones. And so that's the part of it that I think we've missed so far throughout these offseason workouts. All these defensive backs, all these new guys are running on air. You can't really tell anything. At least with receivers and quarterbacks and in the offense, you can look, and skill players wise, you could say, all right, well, they caught the ball. They ran a good route. He looks fast. He looks this. He looks the part. With defensive backs, yeah, they're jumping high and they're doing different things, backpedal drills and stuff, but it's going to be much better to see them go up, Cam Taylor-Britt go up against Jamar Chase and go up against, it won't be T. Higgins, but Tyler Boyd and Dax Hill getting reps in the slot maybe against Tyler Boyd. So that part of it, I think, is going to be really, really exciting to see some of these young players go up against other young players on the Bengals offense, but guys that are established as stars in the league.
Zach Taylor made this point to us, James, this week about what you really are looking for is to make sure guys are not out of place when they're out on the field. Can they do reps time and time again without looking like they're completely lost out there? That's what you're looking for when they're running these drills against air, as you say, and as they say. And you want to make sure, if you are a rookie, that you have your head in your playbook almost 24 hours a day. That's essentially what this part of their first season in an NFL system is really about, correct?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's the thing. Like, physically, Dax Hill is more talented than the majority of players in the NFL. I mean, you just look at his athletic score, you look at all of those things. But the thing that he needs to catch up on is playbook, get acclimated to the speed, all of those things that come with it. And I think playbook is up there because you're going to see different looks. You're going to see different things. And it's almost like he's a freshman again, and these guys are going through it. And so how quick can he get acclimated? And the rest of these rookies get acclimated, because let's be honest here, the Bengals are banking on most of them to contribute in some way. Maybe they're not going to be full-time starters. And I don't think Dax Hill will necessarily be that, because I expect Bates back for the regular season and probably for camp. That being said, he's going to be a valuable contributor. Cam Taylor-Britt is, Zachary Carter is, Cordell Volson on the offensive line, that they all are. So they need to get the fundamentals and the basic stuff, which includes the playbook, because it is challenging, but it is in the basic category when you're talking about having NFL success. Once you get that down, you can start moving the way you move and start leaning on that speed if you're Dax Hill and Tyson Anderson and these rookies.
Okay, specific takeaways that we have observed from the first 5 weeks of spring practice, and not OTAs. OTAs start this week, and Bengals will have again after this week. They'll have, let me bring out my schedule because we don't want to be wrong, James. They have OTAs on the 13th, 14th, and 15th as well, and then it wraps up. So anyway, this week, as we go into OTAs, players that have raised some eyebrows, I'm going to start with Jackson Carman. I think he's certainly in better shape. I think a lot is on his plate going into this season. I had Skinny on, Richard Skinner of Local 12, and he said, look, we don't know anything yet, but he has changed his body shape. He does look different in these practices. I think not only the way Jackson Carman has handled himself on the field, but the way he has handled himself with us in the media. He does not look paranoid. He does not look defensive. He looks like he's ready, and he has learned something from his rookie year, and he's in better shape. That's my biggest takeaway looking at him on the field.
Maybe. Right.
Right.
I understand. I agree about the shape part. He doesn't look sloppy, and he looked sloppy last year at the start of camp. And he would probably say, oh, that's because I'm coming off of back surgery, smack surgery. All right. Joe Burrow eats healthy every single day, it seems like, and would find a way, even though he was coming back from a knee reconstruction surgery. So this could just be a 21-year-old that now 22 that needed to find his way and needed to mature. And hopefully he has, right? Hopefully he's able to deal with the pressures that come with being the 46th pick. And in Cincinnati, it was even heightened because of the offensive line issues. And that's the part of it. It's one thing to be the 46th pick and you're a backup offensive lineman for a year or two. But no. They drafted him to start day one.
Right.
And that did not happen. He only made 5 starts last year. And there's questions about his maturity, questions about his work ethic, all of these things, the off the field stuff that has been reported about him from his days at Clemson, all of these things. But to your point, so far, it seems like he's checked the boxes that he could check. He's not being, he's not going up against guys in practice. We can't gauge that.
No,
we're not even going to and we're not even going to get a great gauge of it in camp, but we will see in the preseason.
I think we will in camp. I think he's going to be tested. I think what he will go up against in camp. I think the Bengals are very sensitive to the matter that this kid needs to show that he's ready to go into games, and that he isn't expected to just turn on the switch in preseason games. I think he's going to have to earn it in training camp.
Well, yeah, but what I mean by that is it's, even camp practices now, and I know they're much tougher than these off-season workouts that we're looking at. It's not like there's a ton of contact. And so we will get an idea, but he's going to have to show it on the field. And so I guess he's a good buy low, right? If you're like gauging him as a stock, but right now he needs to earn everybody's trust again. And so I'm just kind of like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's easy to get in better shape, right? It's right now, but is it functional shape? It's easy to say, yeah, I've been working out with Duke Manyweather. Okay, that's great. I wouldn't mind going to Texas and working out with Duke Manyweather either. Does it translate to the field? And I do think he has the physical talent to be a good NFL guard. Right. But will it translate? And I think that's a huge question, and really the biggest question on offense for this team.
Depth of the offensive line. That is my bigger concern right now. And if something happens, like we've seen Alex Kappa go down with a core muscle deal, as Zach Taylor termed it a couple of weeks ago. He did return this week to the practice, but he didn't take part really in any drills. He didn't take part in the calisthenics and the warm up at the beginning of the practice. So he's still pretty much on the sideline, but he was there in attendance with his core muscle issue. When he comes out and you see not only Jackson Carman in there, but Hakeem Adeniji in there, and then you see Ted Karras as the center and Lael Collins is the right tackle and the left tackle is Jonah Williams. That's where, as I'm watching practices, I get a little more skeptical of what this offense can do if that offensive line isn't what they designed it to be in free agency.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's one of those things where you look back at the draft and you're like, there wasn't a time where you could get an offensive lineman. I mean, it's why I was on the Linderbaum train, and the Bengals weren't, and they weren't going to take him if he was available. I fully believe they would have passed on him. But fixing the offensive line is finishing it and taking out all of these question marks. And now with one minor injury, because I think Alex Kappa is going to be fine and we'll be back for camp and all of those things. But now it's like, depth tested already, because Hakeem Adeniji, as bullish as the Bengals are, and I think they like their depth. I don't think they're like you and me, where it's like, the offensive line is a concern outside of really the big four. And that's what I would call it, because I wouldn't consider Carman a starter. I think it's fair to say that. But I believe in Jonah Williams. I think he's going to have his best season of his NFL career this season, after having a fully healthy offseason, playing 16 games last year, plus the playoffs, so 20 overall. I think he's going to take a step forward. I like Lael Collins and how they were able to reunite him with Frank Pollock. Ted Karras is serviceable and an upgrade from what Trey Hopkins was last year. And Kappa is the first guard that they've spent big money on ever, really. I mean, Clint Bowling didn't have a big deal. So I like Kappa, and he should be going into his prime too. But outside of the big four, I don't feel great about Isaiah Prince. I saw that in Super Bowl 56. I don't feel good about Hakeem Adeniji. Like this. And so do they go out and do they bring back a Quentin Spain? Do they bring back a Trey Hopkins? Do they go get an Eric Flowers maybe? Who's a proven guard in this league that's still out there. I don't know, because I think they like their depth, even though I'm like, really? That's what you're trotting out? Like Deontay Smith and
That's
Jackson
why
Carman and Akeem Adeniji and Isaiah Prince. It's just
that's
Trey
why I'm
Hill.
curious to see what James. That's why I'm curious to see how Cordell Volson plays out, because I think he could have a much bigger role than your average rookie on that offensive line. You agree?
Yeah. I do. Here's why. Because I think physically he has the strength and the size. I think he has the work ethic, and there are no questions about his attitude or anything like that. And he's smart, and he comes from this pro-style North Dakota State type of system where he's not going to be overwhelmed by the transition to guard, and he's going to know his assignments. That being said, so if he does all of those things, he might be a safer play than a Jackson Carman, who might have more highs and have a higher ceiling, but have much lower lows. And so it would not shock me at all if Cordell Volson plays a role, and ultimately it starts for this team, especially. What do you do? Do you really roll out Akeem Adeniji? Maybe you do, but maybe
I'm not Frank Pollock, and I'm not going to say I know all of the ins and outs of the technique and the schemes that Frank Pollock wants to run, and who has mastered these schemes both in the classroom and on the field the way he does. I just don't know. And sometimes you have to admit that you don't always know what you're watching, especially in the trenches. And I defer to someone like Pollock to answer that question. Is Akeem Adeniji really going to be better and more trustworthy? Because that's what you're talking about when you're talking about protecting Joe Burrow. Does Joe Burrow trust Akeem Adeniji or a rookie in Cordell Volson when he's out and the bullets are flying for real?
Yeah, and that's a big question. And does he trust Volson to learn left and right guard? Right. He played on the right side at North Dakota State. Jackson Carman clearly struggled with the right side and could not do that last year. So he said he feels more comfortable on the left side. And so that's the thing, that at some point the Bengals are going to have to develop one of these young guys, and they're going to have to come through. They did not want to pay Alex Kappa the money they did. 4 years, $35 million. They would never want to do that for a guard, but they can't draft and develop them. So guess what? They had to go pay one, and they're hoping to find another one here. And I'm not knocking them. There are plenty of teams in the NFL that don't want to pay big money for a guard necessarily. Right. And so the fact that they did that, I think it's kind of proves, man, we haven't gotten it right. At some point they need to get it right. Is it Jackson Carman? Is it Deontay Smith? Is it Cordell Volson? And I don't know what order they would be in necessarily, but they got to hit on one of those guys, maybe two of those guys, and I'll throw Trey Hill into the mix and Adeniji. Guys you've drafted over the past 3 years that were either mid-round, late-round guys. They're all interior linemen outside of Smith. You should be able to find and develop interior linemen in the middle rounds, late rounds of the NFL draft, and turn them into at least serviceable backups.
Let me make 3 observations about Joe Burrow from the practices that we have seen. Joe Burrow without braces on either knee, running around, very mobile, looks very comfortable moving around left to right and right to left.
Yep.
2, I think his passes have been strong. I think he has been, for the most part, very, very accurate, more so than he was at this stage last year coming off the knee surgery. And 3, probably the most impressive part of the practices I've seen so far were the last 90 seconds of practice that we got to see on Tuesday, where he ran a no huddle and he looked like he was in midseason form. Asked Zach Taylor about this, asked the hand signals that we're not allowed to tweet out, James and Trags.
This is Peyton Manning right here. I don't know what you're talking about.
What's this? Do you know?
I don't know.
I have no idea. Anyway, we saw those. We did see a few signals. Anyway, you got me off track. The way he ran the no huddle offense, James, at the end of practice Tuesday was very encouraging, because you're talking about, yes, he had Tyler Boyd and he had Jamar, but he had several new faces on the offense. He had Mike Thomas on the outside. He had Hayden Hurst running at tight end. And it looked like to me he was very, very comfortable. And those are indications to me that Joe Burrow is really going to hit the ground running once the OTAs start this week, and when he's going up against defenses in 11 on 11s or 7 on 7s, and more importantly, when training camp begins in July.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Joe Burrow is going to have the best season of his career. I mean, he looks great. He looks like he's in insane shape, like on another level. And I pay attention to that stuff more so than other people. Like it's one of my biggest pet peeves when professional athletes aren't maximizing what they can do, because they're all freaks, right? But maximizing what they can do. And this, it seems like he's doing everything
resources
he can.
and available to him, not only workout resources, financial resources. I mean, a lot of people cannot afford to train the way they can afford to train. And that's a big deal.
It is. And he's doing it. And just seeing him up close, I think he's leaner.
Agreed.
But it has more muscle, right? Like it's both. And it's really hard to do that. And so I agree with that. I think he's moving well without the brace. And to me, that's a comfort thing more than it's oh my God, it's going to re-injure him thing. And I know there are fans that are out there that are like, it saved him a couple times last year. There were a couple times where that thing pinched the hell out of him, and that big brace. And I don't think he necessarily liked that. Like it just got weird and pressed up against his knee when he was getting tackled and hit. And so look, if his knee is completely healed, why would you wear braces on both knees, right? I mean, that knee is probably just as strong, if not stronger than the other knee, because he's been working it out as much as he has. So I like that he ran sprints afterwards, after practice when we were talking with Zach Taylor, because he's doing it without a brace too. And he's doing all of these things. So he's testing it to see if he's going to be comfortable without the brace. And I think now is the time to do that, to figure it out. So no, I think if the Bengals are going to make another run at the Super Bowl, they need Burrow to be arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. And he was towards the end of last season, and would not shock me at all if he has an even bigger year after throwing for 4,600 yards and 34 touchdowns.
Observations of Joseph Ossai working on the rehab field.
Looks good. I like how he's moving. I think that lower body is strong and exactly where he needs it. The wrist isn't yet. And so that's what I'm watching for. Will that wrist be fully healed for camp? Will he be full go where he can go up against offensive linemen right away and deal with that? Because if so, I love Joseph Ossai. To me, everyone felt, including me, like Jackson Carman was a reach, and he was in the second round of that draft. But Joseph Ossai was a steal. Like if you would have flipped those two, Joseph Ossai is the 46th overall pick. Jackson Carman is the 69th overall pick. Like that would have made more sense to me in my brain than Carman 46th and Ossai at the start of round 3. That being said, I think Ossai is a freak. I think he's going to help them a lot. He's really good against the run, which is kind of an underrated part that people don't talk about much. And I think he's going to add some juice to that pass rush. So hopefully when the time training camp rolls around, we're talking about Joseph Ossai, number 58, being fully cleared.
You do anticipate Jesse Bates being at training camp, correct? And signing his franchise tender by July 15th.
Well, if you can make 4 times that you've made in your entire NFL career in one season, would you? I mean, I do. And the precedent is actually there. Justin Simmons is represented by David Mulugeta of Athletes First. Jesse Bates is represented by David Mulugeta of Athletes First. And I know there's a lot of talk there about Bates's agent, and some of that has certainly come from me. Justin Simmons still played on the franchise tag for a year for the Broncos, got tagged again, and then the Broncos finally extended it. So there's precedent there. And I just don't think that Bates is going to say, you know what, I'm skipping camp, I'm pulling a Le'Veon Bell, I'm going to skip the regular season. I don't think he is doing that. I think he's posturing right now, and then he'll say, you know what, $12.91 million is a hell of a lot of money. And it's more than most guys are making this year on the Bengals. Most, right? And so if not all, I'm trying to think who makes more. Who makes more? $12.91 million. I think he'd be the highest paid Bengal. None of the new offensive linemen, he would be. So I get it's 1 year. It doesn't give you that security. You're also 25 years old and you're making over half your age in millions this year. And I know some of that goes to the agent and taxes and all of those things, but no, I expect Bates to be there.
I do as well. Any big plans coming up for you as we look past the OTAs and to training camp? There's a nice little 6 or 7 week gap in the event that I don't talk to you between now and then on these podcasts.
No huge plans as of now. I'm sure that's going to change. But yeah, I'm definitely going to take a breath or two because I know what's going to happen. I expect the Bengals to be really damn good, Trags. I do. I don't really see many flaws. I've covered bad Bengals teams where it's like, well, if this and if this and if this and if this and if this goes right, then they're going to be pretty good. Those ifs aren't really there. It's like, well, yeah, left guard's a question mark. And who knows about the interior of the defensive line. And maybe they should add a a wide receiver 4. But like, those are what we call rich people problems
Right.
Because we're going to be talking about the punt competition during camp, right? And the long snapper competition. It's good problems to have, Track. So no, I'll take a breather. No real vacation. You want to go on vacation with me? We can go on vacation.
I'll be like you on my John Deere tractor, taking care of my yard. You want to share with the audience? Come on, share a little bit with the audience. You got a new tractor, and you're ready to be Farmer John in the yard and take care of your own parcel of land.
Yeah, it was delivered to the old homestead today. A John Deere 145, LA 145.
I have an S240.
There you go. You're gonna have to keep me up to date on how you maintain that thing. That's the part that I'm doing. So it's a used mower, but it is in great shape. Had it serviced. It had been sitting for a bit. Had it serviced. It is. Was driving it around the backyard today. The grass doesn't need cut because I was using a 21-inch push mower all summer and last summer. So now that I have this one, big 48-incher, it's going to be much quicker, much more efficient, right? Which is here. Let's tie back to football, right? I expect the Bengals offense to be much more efficient, like me cutting grass in 2022.
Okay, there we go. We'll end it there, James.
No, you don't see that. You don't.
Of course, I see the metaphor that you're making there, the analogy. Well done. Congratulations on making a tremendous analogy. What I really want it to do is make you more efficient so you can hit the links more, because you do golf, right? You golf.
I actually have clubs in the room behind me.
Okay.
So if you want to go golfing, my friend, we can. I suck. I'm the most competitive.
I don't think you suck as much as I do. So Blue Ash might be calling, or Sharon Woods, either one. Those are my two go-tos.
Either one. Yeah, I'll go to either one with you. You're gonna crush me because I'm competitive, but not at golf because I know I suck. So I don't expect to be good.
Then
which is fun,
of course. We'll do it.
Let's do it.
All right. He's James Rapien. You can follow him on Twitter at James Rapien, all one word. He does a tremendous job with his only daily podcast dedicated to your Cincinnati Bengals, Locked On Bengals. And of course, follow his editorial content and news, all breaking Bengals news at allbengals.com. He's James Rapien. I'm Mike Petraglia, Trags. Thanks for watching.